kind of a little bit of theory, but now I want to talk about some kind of practices you can implement in the workplace. Again, this is from the Markkula Center, so this is their ethics toolkit, which I particularly like. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to tell you a few of my favorites. So tool 1 is ethical risk sweeping. And this, I think, is similar to the idea of kind of pen testing that Jeremy mentioned earlier from security, but to have regularly scheduled ethical risk sweeps. And while no vulnerabilities found is generally good news, that doesn't mean that it was a wasted effort, and you keep doing it. Keep looking for ethical risk. One moment. And then assume that you missed some risk in the initial project development. Also, you have to set up the incentives properly where you're rewarding team members for spotting new ethical risk. All right.
Yeah, so I've got some comments here. So my comment here is about the learning rate finder, and I'm not going to bother with the exact mathematical definition, partly because I'm a terrible mathematician and partly because it doesn't matter. But if you just remember, oh, sorry, that's actually not me. I am just reading something that Patty Hendricks has trained a language model of me. So that was me reading the language model of me.
That was great.
It wasn't the real me.
Cool, thank you. So this is a tool 1. I would say another kind of example of this, I think, is like red teaming, of having a team within your org that's kind of trying to find your vulnerabilities. Tool 3, another one I really like, expanding the ethical circle. So whose interests, desires, skills, experiences, and values have we just assumed rather than actually consulted? Who are all the stakeholders who will be directly affected? And have we actually asked them what their interests are? Who might use this product that we didn't expect to use it, or for purposes that we didn't initially intend? And so then a great implementation of this comes from the University of Washington's Tech Policy Lab. Did a project called Diverse Voices, and it's neat. They have both a academic paper on it, and then they also kind of have like a lengthy guide on how you would implement this. But the idea is how to kind of organize expert panels around new technology. And so they did a few samples. One was they're considering augmented reality, and they held expert panels with people with disabilities, people who are formerly or currently incarcerated, and with women to get their input and make sure that was included. They did a second one on an autonomous vehicle strategy document and organized expert panels with youth, with people that don't drive cars, and with extremely low income people. And so I think this is a great guide if you're kind of unsure of how do you even go about setting something like this up to expand your circle, include more people, and get perspectives that may be underrepresented by your employees. So I just want to let you know that this resource is out there. Tool 6 is think about the terrible people. And this can be hard because I think we're often, thinking kind of positively, or thinking about people like ourselves who don't have terrible intentions. But really think about who might want to abuse, steal, misinterpret, hack, destroy, or weaponize what we build. Who will use it with alarming stupidity or irrationality? What rewards, incentives, openings has our design inadvertently created for those people? And so kind of remembering back to the section on metrics, how are people going to be trying to game or manipulate this? And how can we then remove those rewards or incentives? And so this is an important important step to take. And then tool 7 is closing the loop, ethical feedback and iteration, remembering this is never a finished task, and identifying feedback channels that will give you kind of reliable data, and integrating this process with quality management and user support, and developing formal procedures and chains of responsibility for ethical iteration. And this tool reminded me of a blog post by Alex Fierce that I really like. Alex Fierce was previously the chief legal officer at Medium, and I guess this was a year ago. He interviewed, it was something like 15 or 20 people that have worked in trust and safety. And trust and safety includes content moderation, although it's not solely content moderation. And kind of one of the ideas that came up that I really liked was one of the people, and so many of these people have worked in trust and safety for years at big name companies. And one of them said, the separation of product people and trust people worries me, because in a world where product managers and engineers and visionaries cared about this stuff, it would be baked into how things get built. If things stay this way, that product and engineering are Mozart and everyone else is Alfred the Butler, the big stuff is not going to change. And so I think at least two people in this kind of talk about this idea of needing to better integrate trust and safety, which are often kind of on the front lines of seeing abuse and misuse of a technology product, integrating that more closely with product and eng, so that it can kind of be more directly incorporated and you can have a tighter feedback loop there about what's going wrong and how that could be designed against. Okay, so these were I linked to a few blog posts and research I thought relevant, but inspired by the Markkula Center's tools for tech ethics, and hopefully those are practices you could think about potentially implementing at your company.